definitely poor, borderline poverty level, but we definitely had love for each other. We had our tough times. We definitely had struggles. Um, of course, it was just my mother. My father had left us right around the time I was born. Um, and then, of course, I have two older brothers. My older brother Jake and my middle brother. Well, we call him Fats. He was fat when he was a baby. All the different places that I grew up. Well, I was born in Harrisburg. Lived there for a couple years until we moved into Middletown. And we must have lived in 5 different houses while we lived in Middletown. Then we ended up moving to Elizabethtown. Had to be another 4 or 5 houses that we lived in.
Of course, I had my mom and my dad all my life until my dad passed away. We were kind of a poor family. My mom didn't work. My dad worked 2 jobs, so we hardly ever saw him. I had an older sister, and we lived in a little house. I think it was maybe only a 1-bedroom house. I can't remember because I was just born there. And then the people that owned the house wanted the house for their family members, so they kicked us out. And we had to move into this row home, and it was horrible. It had cockroaches, it had rats. My mom cried almost every night. My dad worked more so we could get out of there. They rented it. So then they found a house that was close by, and we rented that. And that was only a 2-bedroom house also. My bedroom was actually in the hallway, and my older sister, had her own room. Then my mom got pregnant and had my younger sister, and I think I was in 2nd grade when she had her. And then our next door neighbor at the time, they were selling their house, so my parents didn't have enough money to buy the house, so they did a sales agreement with the family. So my parents paid them a little bit here and there, whatever. It ended up my mom started babysitting out of our house for extra income, and my dad then was working a little bit less.
This band right here, Boston. The vocal harmonies, the melodies of the guitar. The first time I heard the album, I fell in love with music and everything about it. The years before that, I really didn't listen to music at all. I mean, it was this band here solely is what struck me, and it went from there. You know, bands like Triumph and Kiss and Led Zeppelin and so on. Yeah. Well, I'm 53 now. I started playing guitar when I was probably about 15 or 16. Yeah. What was it like playing in a band? It's probably one of the best experiences that I've ever had in my life. Just being able to entertain people, you're playing for big venues. We did a lot of benefits for people that needed help for whatever reasons. Played in a lot of different bars and restaurants. Yeah, it's probably the best time of my life.
Why do I cook? I like doing it, and I like feeding people. Food makes people feel comfortable, so that makes me feel good doing it. I'm not a very great cook, but I can cook some things, and I'm willing to try any recipe that's out there as long as I have instructions. Events that I cooked for, Sunday football at the bar, Halloween, because we feed the neighborhood here at Halloween. People that are sick or whatnot, I've made food for their families.
The era, being born in 1967, was around the muscle time era. Yeah, that's what got me into hot rods. Just the love of cars. I love the shape of them. I love the sound, the horsepower, everything that they're about. Just love muscle cars. Some of the cars that I've owned, I had a 1969 Nova with a 396 in it. I had a 1994 Mustang Cobra, black Mustang Cobra. I had a 2004 Mustang Cobra R, supercharged. I have, of course, this right here, my 2007 Roush Mustang, supercharged. I had a 1970 orange station wagon Monza. Had a 74 442 Oldsmobile. My favorite car out of all of them, maybe I didn't say this, would have been my AC Cobra, my 1965 AC Cobra, red with white stripes down the middle with a 427 big block in it. Yeah, by far my favorite car. Wish I wouldn't have sold it.
David, my husband, took me when I was 18 years old. I had just graduated high school. My parents never took us to the beach, so I've never been there before. And they weren't very happy with me going because back then you weren't to be with a dude all by yourself. So he took me to North Wildwood, New Jersey, to the Harbor Light Motor Inn, it was called. I love it. If I could, I would live there. Don't like the sand, but I love the ocean atmosphere and the busyness of the boardwalk and the sun. I would lay out in the sun all day if I could, and just to get away.
How did I start in the bar business? I was probably about 13 years old. My Aunt Rosie owned the lamppost in Middletown. She hired me to do cleaning and some cooking. I was actually noted as Taco Dave. I made killer tacos back in the day. Uh, my aunt had the bar for approximately 7, 8 years till she went out of business. At that point in time, my mom bought a bar, the Ridge Run Tavern. It's in between like Hershey, Elizabethtown, Hummelstown. It's out in the country, a country bar. So I ran that place for her for about 10 years. I booked all the bands. I DJ'd out there. My own band actually played out there. Yeah, I did everything, all the beer orders, food orders, what have you. Did that for about 10 years, and I kind of got the bar burnout. So I ended up getting out of the bar business altogether. I think probably about 3 or 4 years went by, and then my mom actually got a hold of me and said there's a bar for sale in Elizabethtown. It was called Cease's Place. It was actually a bar that she wanted to buy before the Ridge Run. I can't remember exactly how that deal fell through, but anyway, it came back to us. So the deal was, she said, I'll buy the business. You run it for me for like 3 to 5 years. She said, if you're doing good, I'll sell the place to you, and then you'll have your own business. And that's exactly what happened. It actually went a little longer than the 3 to 5 year period because we were really making good money. And 8 or 9 years until she actually sold it to me. And then I've had it now for the past 10 or 11 years.
What careers in the medical field? When I was in high school, I started working as a nurse's aide at Fry Village in Middletown. And I went to school full time, and as soon as school was over, I would go right to Fry Village and work 3 to 11. I forget how long I worked there. And then still in my 12th grade year, my shorthand teacher and typing teacher got me a job at an insurance company. At first it was just clerical, but because I was bored and needed to be busy all the time, I started doing dental claims, medical claims, processing them, putting them in the computer, and looking at them to make sure they were legitimate and whatnot. But then I decided to work there 4 days out of the week for 10 hours a day, and I got a part-time job at Masonic Homes as a nurse's aide out there, and I did that probably for about 2 or 3 years. And then I decided to go to school to become an EMT with my older sister, and we went to Hack and did the whole course, and I became an EMT. And I went to work on an ambulance. I can't remember the name of the company. And I did that 3 days a week, including weekends, and I still worked full-time at the insurance company. And I worked at the insurance company doing medical claims, disability, that kind of thing for 36 years. And also worked part-time at Boscov's then, because I left the EMT. After that, I ended up at Penn State Hershey doing pre-registration for patients and insurance verification, and that's where I'm at now. I chose the healthcare field because my intentions were to become a nurse. That didn't work out, so yeah, I'm just doing what I'm doing now. And I wanted to do that because I like to take care of people and help people, and the blood and guts doesn't bother me, so.
How was it moving into the new house? Well, before here, Susie, which would have been my girlfriend at the time, we lived in Elizabethtown, in a little apartment, little one-bedroom apartment on Willow Street in Elizabethtown. We lived there for about a year, and then we bought our first house, which was a townhouse, also in Elizabethtown off Old Hershey Road. I don't know, I think we lived there for about 4 or 5 years. Then we ended up selling that townhouse to her sister, believe it or not. We moved from Elizabethtown to Bainbridge, which is where we live now, and I actually spotted the house on a television advertisement back in the day. They used to advertise houses for sale on television, and I happened to catch it. We came down and looked at the house. We fell in love with it, and we kind of turned it into our own little palace. We customized it to our liking, and I love being here, and yeah, it's kind of my dream house. Yeah, I'm very glad the way things ended up. I didn't expect for life to work out the way that it did. Um, the way it started, things were tough at a young age, and they progressed, worked hard, and had dreams and hopes, and it worked out great. I don't know what else to say, but I'm as happy and as content as a person can be.
When I was about 20, I moved out with my then boyfriend, David. Now he's my husband. I've been with him for 36 years. I met him when I was 15. But we moved out into an apartment. It was a 2-floor apartment, but it was only 1 bedroom in Elizabethtown. I worked 2 jobs. I think that was insurance, I think, and an EMT. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it doesn't matter. We lived there for a little while, and he had a hot rod. I remember it was a 69 Nova, and he decided he was going to sell it so we could buy a house. He thought it was more financially sound to buy a house instead of keep paying rent. So he sold it. He actually sold it to a cop in New Jersey. I cried the day he sold it. And then we moved into a townhouse. That was nice. It was in Elizabethtown also. And he made improvements to it and whatnot. And then we got married. Got married in 1996, yeah. We were together for 12 years. We got married. And he said he didn't want to have children and whatnot. So then he changed his mind one day, and he's like, let's have a kid. So I got pregnant, and he didn't want to bring up a child in a townhouse and in the neighborhood that we were in, which wasn't a bad neighborhood, but it just wasn't kid friendly. So we looked and we looked and we looked, and we finally found the house that we're in now, and we've been here ever since. And my son is now going to be turning 21. Yeah, we have a lot more than what I did when I was younger. I worked 2 jobs most of my life, and now my husband has his own business that, we both worked for. I still help him out there, and yeah, we have a pretty good life. We don't live like we have money to throw away, but we live pretty good.